The unofficial figure for that first one was around about 200,000 people watched that first quiz. Yeah. And I remember once I turned the camera off at the end of it, I laid down on the floor behind and went, what on earth have I just done?
So I'm delighted to welcome to All Things Quiz, Flynn MBE. Hello, Jay.
Hi, lovely. Thank you very much for inviting me on, Gareth. It's an absolute pleasure.
I don't know how to think about what's happened to you in the last 18 months, but actually, you've had a roller coaster life. And so basically your life feels like one of those Richard Curtis films where loads of really horrible stuff happens. You think things are just about getting right, and then something else horrible happens, and then the most amazing happy accident occurs, and you leave the cinema feeling amazing. Has anybody approached you about your life story?
No, which I think in a way is quite good, because I don't think how I'd be able to see it up on the big screen. Every time I talk to somebody new, something else comes into my head, both good and bad. People keep saying, who would you have play on screen? And I can't even think about who that would be. To be fair, it would have to be really Tom Cruise, but that's just a running joke from the quiz for the last 18 months of my misspell, so it'd have to be Tom Cruise, really. But
yeah, we'll touch on misspells, I think, in a little bit. For the benefit of people who don't know, just to kind of flesh that out, you were, after a relationship breakdown, you were homeless for a couple of years in the most picturesque location on the embankment of London, but nonetheless pretty grim. What did you learn about yourself during that period?
I learned I was very resilient. In the fact that, I'm very proud I didn't break the law, or I didn't turn to anything illegal. I just found ways to keep myself occupied 18 hours a day, and then go to sleep, and then crack on again the following day. And when you've got, most of us now would wake up in the morning and go, right, I've got a plan today. I need to do the washing, do the ironing, do this, do that. I didn't have any plans. I had absolutely nothing, but I still managed to keep myself, sort of resilient and keep a little bit of something about me going. I think I got a lot, it sounds a bit weird, but I got a lot of peace out of myself as well. I'd gone through some really difficult times, and I went to a phase in my life where it was, it sounds awful now, but it's que sera, sera. One or two things is going to happen here. Either someone's going to, grab me by the hand and take me on a path that takes me out of this situation, or this is how I'm going to live out, the final days of my life. And I found that peace with that. And I think that's helped me be a lot more empathetic towards people, and a lot more helpful towards people than maybe I was in my early 20s. And it's definitely changed, me for who I am. And, definitely for the better. I'm a lot better person for that experience.
But for me, I think the important message is homelessness is the sort of thing that can happen to anyone. It can just be as simple as the roof over your head is taken away and you've got nowhere else to go. And for me, that it's a salutary reminder that a lot of people are not that far away from being in a really bad position.
And there's people that you wouldn't even expect it from. That's the scary thing for me. It's one of the messages that I'm trying to get out there as much as I can, is never ever, if you find yourself in a situation where you've nowhere to turn, never ever be afraid to put your hand up and ask for help. Because I didn't. I just went, the whole world's against me, goodbye. And, went off grid for 2 years. But there are other people who may not necessarily have that resilience in them to survive. And we lose, and we do lose people every single day who, if they'd have just asked for help, they could go on to achieve some incredible things. And that's one of the messages that I do want people to say, look, never be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. And you got help from a brilliant charity at St. Martin's in the Fields, didn't you?
For 2 years, you're just sort of plodding along, health's deteriorating, it was never going to end in the right way without their support. And they rebuilt me. They made me into, they took that person and all the things that I'd learned over the 2 years and sent me back into society. And I said to him at the time, I'm forever grateful, and I'm in your debt, and I don't care how long it takes or what needs to happen. At some point, an opportunity will present itself to me to repay that debt to you. And through the last 18 months, I mean, I say to them, I've started to repay that debt. They say I've repaid it 10 times over, which I still don't feel I have. But, you know, it's an ongoing humorous battle between us. But I will shout about any homeless charity until I do eventually leave this earth, because I think they're incredible.
You then kind of became a publican. I mean, I'm sure that, you know, I'm shortcutting the story, but you became a publican. Is that when you kind of first started like running quizzes?
No, well, in my early 20s, I'd worked in pubs, you know, just behind the bar, and I'd fill in and run some of the quizzes, you know, early 2000s, and that was where my love of quizzing really kicked in, because I'm a geek. You know, my favorite PC game, Cities Skylines, and I can sit for hours building cities. You know, that's the kind of person I am, and you know, with those early days of going through and researching and finding stuff that I know would challenge those regular teams, but it was proper quiz. It was pen and paper. It was, you can hear the pencils scratching as people are writing down answers and scribbling them out, and you can hear the arguing. And that's what I loved about it. It was almost that little, sounds a bit evil, but it was that little bit of control. You know, they didn't know what was coming. I knew what was coming, and I knew there were some evil questions. And so that's where my first love of it came from. But then, you know, when I started running pubs up here in the Northwest, it was something that had become my ritual. A Thursday night with my friends was, we would always go out, because we're not a group of friends who likes falling out of nightclubs at 3 o'clock in the morning. We'd much rather be sat around the table, be it pen and paper or a smartphone, whatever it might be, play a quiz, and invariably one of us would get an answer wrong that we're adamant that we're right about, and you have that banter with your friends, and it's great. It was always a good night. So when we took on the pubs, I made sure that tradition continued, and all the quiz teams I've been playing against, I then got the opportunity to host them. And so for 2 years solidly, that was always my Thursday night. I was either playing or hosting quizzes. So when Boris made the first announcement that said he was going to shut all licensed venues down on the Friday, I just went, what on earth do I do now? That's my one night out of the week. You know, my wife and I have the agreement I can go out on a Thursday. Well, what do I do now? So I just created a very, very silly Facebook event that effectively said, look, we can't go out on Thursday night. I'll do this, you know, I'll do a quiz on Thursday online somehow. No idea what I'm going to do, but we'll make something up as we go along. You know, and if you want to share it to some of the other quiz teams in Darwin, in the local area, because I don't have them all on Facebook. You know, I've got my friends, I've got some of the teams, but share this to the other teams if you like, and left it at that. And then on the Monday, I got a random message from someone that no mutual friend saying, can you explain how this quiz works? And I thought, oh, okay, I'm just talking about this, but have a quick look. And there were 700 people interested. And again, to shorten the story down, by the time that the live quiz on the 26th of March came around, there was over 500,000 people interested in the event. And I was hitting the floor during the week, as it was. I'd spent all week, phone ringing off the hook. Can you tell us about this? Talk to us more about this. What is it you're doing? And I'm like, why are people interested in a quiz? It's just a quiz. It's something that you can find up and down the country in pubs. It's a great free thing to put on in pubs, but it's never the most popular night of the week. Why is everyone suddenly interested in this quiz? But yeah, we the unofficial figure for that first one was around about 200,000 people watched that first quiz. And I remember once I turned the camera off at the end of it, I laid down on the floor behind and went, what on earth have I just done? And I thought, but I still thought it'd be a one-off. I genuinely thought I'd do that, and then everyone would move on to, you know, finding something else to do. But I set the Facebook page up and the other social medias and said, if you want it to carry on, let me know. And it just carried on going nuts. So we started doing Thursdays and Saturdays. It's been insane.
Have you ever had that sliding doors moment where you think, what would have happened if you just set the settings correctly and just your friends would have seen it? What your life would be like now?
Quiet, probably. To be honest, I mean, I've loved every minute of it. This is the thing. I don't like being in the spotlight. There's a difference of standing in front of 30 people in a pub and asking them questions and, you know, having the arguments back. I mean, my quiz team group, our WhatsApp group, is known as the Return of Andy Peters, because I once did an audio round where it was named the person. So, you know, question one, here's your audio. It plays out and say, right, so that was Andy Peters there. Right, let's move on to number two. Didn't even think about it. They're all looking at me going, you've you've just given us the answer. So that's why we're known, you know, and that's what I was known for. But I used to say there's some great quiz hosts here in Darwin, and I'm friends with a lot of them. And I always used to say that I'm the least professional quiz host in Darwin. So when you've only got 200,000 people watching you across the world, I'm like, oh, this is not good. I'm the least professional quiz host that you guys want to be watching a quiz with. But people loved it. But yeah, the other option is I think there would have been someone else, and someone else would have been doing the quizzes, and I would have been quite happily playing along and enjoying them. That would be the other side of the sliding door.
But there were other people, and this is the thing I remember from that time. As soon as kind of yours kind of caught the news, all of a sudden, I couldn't turn on one of these magazine programs on TV without, hey, somebody's had a great idea of doing an online pub quiz. And it'd be like, it felt like, you know, the world and his wife suddenly had cottoned on to this being an opportunity. And some of them had clearly thought, we can be much more kind of technologically advanced and whiz bang and all this sort of thing. How did it feel to you, having been kind of the guy who accidentally started it all, when you suddenly see all these other people basically cottoning onto your idea, trying to monetize it and trying to get in on the act?
Everyone had a different story, and everyone had a different reason, you know, for setting them up. I know there's a couple of pubs that set them up because they had no income. You know, absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
I know there were some people who set it up for literally just to try and make a quick buck. But I kind of kept myself away from it all because I didn't want to get involved in anyone sort of saying, oh, you know, why are you supporting them and not us, and et cetera, et cetera. So I kept out of it. But I also just wanted to just concentrate on what I was doing. You know, I had never had any intentions of putting a blanket fee across all of the quizzes and saying, right, now you have to pay to play. You know, I introduced the charity aspect for it. But again, I sat down with my wife and said, look, I've got an opportunity here to raise a bit of money for charity, never expecting how much we were to go on to raise. But I said, I could really help NHS charities together. I said, but I don't want it to turn into comic relief where, you know, here's, you know, question one, right. So if you enjoyed that first question, here you go, you can sponsor for, and I didn't want it to be like that. So I sat down and worked at the best way to do it, link in the description, put a video in the break while everyone's thinking about their answers and crack on. You know, I think people appreciated the fact they could literally on a Thursday night go YouTube, Jay's Virtual Quiz, pen and paper, here we go. We've got 50 questions without having to do anything else.
Brilliant. Well, I got 3 quick questions. So first quick question, what is your favorite quiz category?
Ooh, traditionally it would be sport, just because I'm Formula One, football, you know, mad, and I do follow, you know, cricket, golf, etc. So that tends to be my strongest. That or music, especially audio rounds. I'm quite good at audio rounds.
How good a quizzer are you, Jay? Let's be honest. How good are you?
So the more drunk I got, the more confident I got, the more I got wrong. That is probably the best way to put it. Before lockdown, we were playing a lot of the speed quizzing, so it's first letter of the answer. And I'd either be so confident I'd dive in and it would be completely wrong, or there'd be finger clashes or whatever it might be. But yeah, the thing is, a lot of people think after 18 months of writing quiz questions, I'm going to be really, really intelligent, but it does go in one ear and out the other. If you were to sit down and ask me Saturday night's quiz, I'd probably get maybe 30, maybe 35 out of it. And I wrote the thing. So.
Brilliant. If you were to go on Mastermind, what would be your specialist subject?
The Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I did notice in your last record bit that there were some tough old questions in that Marvel round.
Oh, yes.
You were not pandering to the casual fan there, were you?
No, I'm a massive fan of the MCU, you know, all the way. I mean, I love the comics and stuff like that. But you know, the 24 odd films, you know, or everything that's coming up. You know, even my 4-year-old, he calls me Captain America, which I absolutely love him to pieces for that. And I didn't teach him it. So, but yeah, the MCU that would be my mastermind subject.
Great. And finally, what is your favorite TV quiz show?
Ooh, kind of gonna have to say Eggheads. Okay. And there's a reason that will come out later on in the year.
Okie dokie, that's fine. we know and like Eggheads, of course, is moving to Channel 5. So
Yes.
starting to put the pieces together.
And it was the early hours of the Thursday morning in the infamous Game of Thrones round, which just Game of Thrones is now banned from the quiz after what happened at the second attempt. But and I was just sat in my chair, and I did as I did, read the question, was watching my timer, and I just looked down underneath my desk, and there's a load of wires and cables, as everyone has under the desk, and all of a sudden they just started moving.
Oh.
And I was just looking, going, I can't even concentrate here, and I'm not far from breaking the record.